Hey guys, Luan here. Today I'm going to show you how to restring an acoustic guitar. Now before we get started, we need to quickly go over the parts of the guitar that we're going to use while we're restringing. At the top here we've got the head, this part here, and we've got the tuning pegs. Now the strings kind of wrap around these little pegs here, these little metal pegs. They wrap around them and then you turn the pegs with these little knobs here. Now they'll make the string tighter or looser, which will determine if your guitar's in tune or not. We've got the nut, where the strings kind of get set into place, and there's like a little groove for each string. So they need to all be in the right place there, which we'll look at later on. And then we've got down here is the bridge of the guitar, and this is where we attach the other end of the strings to. Now there's nothing moving down here on most guitars. Normally just put the string in, and then up here is where you do all the tightening. And down here we've got these little knobs on acoustic guitars. Some of them will be slightly different, some of them might not even have knobs. And what these do is they just keep the strings in place. They're pushing down on the string on this end to make sure that they're not moving at all. So some reasons why you might want to restring a guitar is maybe a string has snapped and you want to replace just that one string. Or maybe your strings are getting a bit old and rusted and they don't feel as nice to play anymore. That might be another reason why you want to have some new strings. Or you might just want to try a different gauge of string, a different thickness to see how it sounds. When we're restringing a guitar, it's really important that we get the right type of string. Otherwise, the guitar might sound a bit funny afterwards. This here is a steel string guitar, so we need to get steel string acoustic strings. If we get electric strings, they're not going to work as well and they might sound a bit funny once you put them in. So acoustic steel strings. The other type of acoustic string you'll get is a nylon string, which a lot of you might have, and then the kind of plastic looking strings you might find on some guitars. So you need to make sure you get the string that matches the type of guitar that you have. And when we have strings, an important thing to look at is the string gauge. The string gauge is just how thick or how thin the strings are. So a low gauge is quite a thin string and they're a bit easier to play because you don't have to push as hard with your fingers. But they sound slightly different to a high gauge string. A high gauge string, they're a lot thicker and they're usually more full sounding, but it's a lot more difficult to push down with your left hand. So you might have to try a few different types of strings over some time and then find what you like the best. All right, so because loosening the string takes a while, I'm just going to use this little device here just to turn the string a little bit faster. You don't need it, it just speeds it up a little bit. All the strings are off, at this end anyway, and now we need to get them all off at this end. So this can be quite a challenge sometimes, but you need to get these little pegs out in order for you to get the string out. So sometimes you can just pull them out, other times you might need to push the string down into the guitar and the peg will come loose like that. There we go. I'm just going to push the string down and then the peg is going to loosen. Easy. The strings are off. You want to make sure you just throw them in the bin, but the tips can be quite sharp sometimes. So make sure you don't slide your fingers across them or anything, and it can be quite dangerous. You might end up cutting yourself. So just be careful with the strings once you've taken them all off. Now the highest number is the highest thickness. So this will be the top string of the guitar. And then you want to go in order of the highest number to the lowest number here. So this one here will be the bottom string on the guitar, the high E string. And this one will be the top string there. Once all the strings are off, it's a great time to just quickly go and clean your guitar, because it's usually quite hard to do once your strings are on. It's probably the best time to do it. So this guitar is actually quite clean down here. I'm just going to wipe off some extra dust that you might find. Dust is off, and the head is usually quite dusty as well sometimes. Gonna get all the dust off there. can start putting on some strings. So I'm going to start with the top string. It doesn't really matter which order you do it in. I just like to do the same thing every time. So I'm going to take the highest gauge string out here, and I'm going to unwrap it. So you have to be careful when you're unwrapping it, because the strings can fling out and you don't want it to go anywhere near your face. So I like to hold it quite far away from my body as I'm doing this. So, oh, there we go. Might be coiled around itself sometimes. There we go. All right. Now there's two ends to the string. We've got one end with a little ball here. This is the end that goes down this side of the guitar. And we've got the point end over here. So I'm just going to push it down a little bit. Doesn't really matter how far you go. And then I want to grab one of those pegs that I removed earlier. And it's got a little groove here. So I want to make sure the groove of the peg is where the string is like this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down with the peg, and I'm going to pull up with the string to make it tight. So push down with the peg, pull up with the string, and there we go, it's nice and tight here. It's definitely not going anywhere. I'm going to bring the tip of the string to the tuning peg here. Because it's the top string, I'm going to put it on the closest peg up here. Now if you come look over here, the tuning peg has a little hole for the string to fit through. So you just want to slide the string through the hole and just pull it through. Okay, now you usually don't want to pull it all the way through. You want to leave a little bit of slack so that you can wrap the string around a little bit. So once the string is through, what we're going to want to do is bring the string towards you and then put it back through underneath the string. And then we're going to pull it quite tight. And then you're going to wrap it back over like this. And you want to make sure the string is in this groove over here while we're turning the peg. Now when we're turning the peg, because we want the string to be tighter, we're going to turn it anti-clockwise, like this. And we want to make sure we keep this little groove here the whole way through. The string might slide in and out of the nut while it's not tight, but once you start getting a bit tighter, make sure to slide it back over. So I'm going to use my finger to keep the string in place here while I turn. Once we've finished turning the string around and we've got roughly in tune, and take some pliers and just snip off the little end of the string here, so we don't have this long bit floating around. Oh, this way around. And there we go, we've got a string on. Now I'm going to do the same for the rest of the strings. Top three strings of the guitar, and now we're going to switch to the bottom three. But because this guitar has 3 tuning pegs on the top and 3 on the bottom, when we add this next string in, it's going to go into this last peg here, not the first one. So make sure that you go all the way into this last peg if you have a guitar with the same head shape here. Turning the strings, you might want to have a tuner out just so you can get roughly in tune with your strings, but it's better to tune them all individually afterwards. We want to get roughly in the right place before we have all the strings on. Alright, now that we've got all 6 strings on the guitar, it's time to tune it. When we're tuning a freshly restrung guitar, you want to do it slightly different to what we normally do. So you still want to tune it like normal, but at the same time, I want you guys to bend the strings a little bit. Because what happens when you have new strings is it takes a while for them to adjust to the new tension of the string. So they might go out really quickly after you've tuned them. So this kind of helps speed that up a little bit so that they stay in tune straight away. There we go, we've got an in-tune guitar.